The first time I realized I was no longer a husband, but a prisoner, was when I found the lock on the outside of my bedroom door. Not inside. Outside. My name is Lucas. I'm 43. I used to work heavy construction in Louisville, framing houses, pouring concrete, swinging steel. I was proud of what I built. Of what these hands could do. Until the day the scaffold gave way, and my spine shattered like dry wood. T10. Paralyzed from the waist down. A wheelchair is now my reality. But the real pain didn't come from the fall. It came after. Megan, my wife of 12 years, was the kind of woman who turned heads without trying. Auburn hair always pinned up in a loose twist, soft freckles across her nose, that calm, collected voice that made people believe anything she said. I used to believe it too. She met me at the rehab center when they finally let me go home. "It's okay," she whispered, hugging my stiff shoulders. "We'll figure it out. As a family." I believed her. I wanted to. But when we got home, I didn't sleep in our bedroom. She had already cleared out the guest room, moved in a hospital bed, a plastic commode, and mounted a small camera in the corner. She said it was, for the kids' safety. Our boys, Tyler and Max, were 10 and 7. I didn't want to scare them either. But then she started locking the door at night. "Just so the kids don't wander in," she said. It only took a few days to feel like I was in a cage. I started noticing things. Strange things. The kids stopped talking to me, Max would just stare, confused, and Tyler avoided eye contact altogether. Megan disappeared for hours in the evenings. She'd come home flushed, breathless, always with some vague excuse about groceries or a walk to clear her head. One night, I wheeled to the door and leaned in close. I heard her laughing. Not the tired laugh I used to know. This was soft. Playful. Intimate. Then, a man's voice. Deep. Confident. Too familiar. I froze. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. I told myself it was the TV. Maybe she left something playing downstairs. Maybe I imagined the voice. After all, pain medication can mess with your head, right? But that night, I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the blinking red light of the webcam in the corner. It used to mean safety. Now, it felt like surveillance. Like I was being watched instead of protected. The next morning, Megan brought me eggs, cold, rubbery, overcooked, and a plastic fork. She didn't look at me when she set the tray down. She barely spoke anymore. "Where were you last night?" I asked. Her head snapped up. "Excuse me?" I heard voices. Her face changed instantly. That soft, gentle Megan I knew, gone. "You need to stop imagining things, Lucas. It's not healthy. The kids are already scared. Don't make this worse." My stomach turned. "I'm not imagining." She cut me off. "Your mind's not right. You know what the doctor said. You're still adjusting." That's when I realized, she wasn't going to comfort me. She wasn't going to help me through this. She was going to gaslight me into silence. Flashback, I remember the first time we met. I was working on a friend's kitchen remodel, shirt soaked through from a busted pipe under the sink. She walked in with a tray of lemonade, all confidence and wit, teasing me about how I looked like a drowned rat. We stayed up that night until 2 a.m., talking about dreams and road trips we'd never take. I fell for her fire. But fire, I've learned, can burn just as easily as it warms. Back in the present, things got worse. One afternoon, I asked Tyler to bring me my journal from the living room. He paused, eyes flickering with fear, then whispered, "Mom said I shouldn't talk to you when you're in one of your moods." My heart dropped. "What moods, buddy?" But he had already turned and walked away. I tried talking to Megan again. Calmly. I begged her to unlock the door. To let me spend dinner with the family. She smiled a cold, rehearsed smile. I can't risk it, Lucas. You're not well. I looked around the room, at the stained carpet, the high window I couldn't reach, the white walls closing in. This was not a home. This was a hospital cell. I began to keep records. Notes. Dates. Times. I wrote everything down, when she left, what I heard, what the kid said, how long she was gone. It helped me feel sane. Anchored. Like I still had a voice, even if no one was listening. One night, around 1 a.m., I heard the front door creak open. The unmistakable sound of a man's shoes, heavy, confident, walking down the hall. Then the low hum of laughter. 2 voices. Hers. And his. I turned on the webcam's feed. And there they were. In my kitchen. Drinking wine. He was sitting in my chair. Megan touched his arm. She was glowing. He kissed her. My heart didn't sink. It fractured. I wanted to scream. To break the screen. To tear something apart. But I couldn't even leave the room. I was trapped behind a locked door, behind lies, behind a version of me that no one believed anymore. But deep down, a small flame started to flicker. If she was going to erase me, I'd leave a mark she couldn't wash away. The next morning, Megan brought in my breakfast tray like nothing had happened. No mention of the wine glasses still sitting on the kitchen counter. No trace of the man whose voice still echoed in my ears. But now, I was watching. Every blink. Every pause. Every quiet breath she took around me felt scripted. Like she was playing a part. Like I was just a nuisance, a shadow she had to manage. That same day, I asked for a shower. Not sponge bath help, an actual shower. She sighed. Lucas, that's going to be difficult. You know we don't have the right equipment. We have a transfer bench. I used it before. It's dangerous. If you fall again. I won't, I said sharply. I need to feel like a human again. She didn't answer. She just turned and left. I waited an hour. Then another. She never came back. That night, I wheeled to the door. Listened. Nothing. Then the faint creak of floorboards. Low voices. Laughing. A clink of a wine bottle. I clicked open the app for the webcam. The hallway camera showed nothing. But the living room feed? He was back. The man had short, buzzed hair, a chiseled jaw, and a familiarity that chilled me. At first, I couldn't place him. But then he turned his head to the side, a scar above his right brow. Troy. My old friend. The guy I'd worked with for 5 years. The same guy I'd pulled from under a collapsing beam on site 3 years ago, shattered arm, cracked ribs. I visited him in the hospital. Paid out of pocket for his meds when he lost his job. That man was now sipping from my glass, laughing with my wife, stroking her thigh like he belonged there. I couldn't breathe. The walls of the room felt like they were bending inward, suffocating me with betrayal. I pressed record on the webcam software. I needed proof. I needed to hold on to the reality she kept trying to distort. Flashback, I remember the night after I saved Troy. Megan brought him a casserole. We sat around the table, the 3 of us, toasting with cheap beer. She said, Troy's like family now. And I agreed. Back in the present, the scene in the living room kept unfolding. Megan moved closer. Her bare legs brushed his. She said something I couldn't hear. Then laughed. I watched as she leaned in, and kissed him. Not a casual kiss. Not a mistake. A slow, open, familiar kiss. My fingers curled into fists. This was real. I wasn't delusional. I wasn't unstable. I wasn't imagining things. I was being erased. The next morning, I didn't ask her where she'd been. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just said, "Troy says hi." Her face froze. Only for a second. But I saw it. The micro-flinch. The way her hand trembled as she reached for the tray. "What are you talking about?" she whispered. "Nothing," I said. "Maybe I'm just confused. You know, unstable and all." She didn't respond. Just backed out of the room. I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had just been buried alive, but found a pocket of air. I began downloading the feeds. I wrote a timeline. I emailed backups to a dummy account. Every whispered lie, every frame of footage. I made copies of my journal, labeled everything with dates and times. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. But I knew this. They thought I was broken. But I still had my mind. And I would make them remember that. It was a Thursday night when I saw them fully. Megan had told the kids I was tired and needed rest. She gave them dinner, put on a movie, and sent them to bed early. I heard the sound of their footsteps upstairs, the creak of Tyler's door closing. Then silence. But I wasn't tired. I was waiting. I'd angled the hallway camera toward the staircase that day. Another pointed into the far end of the living room. And at 9:47 p.m., he arrived. No knock. Just a key. My key. Megan met him at the door in a soft gray robe. Her hair was undone, tumbling over her shoulders in waves the way she used to wear it just for me. Her face was bare but glowing in the warm kitchen light. She looked like the version of her from years ago, the woman I fell in love with on a camping trip, when she danced barefoot in the firelight. But tonight, that warmth wasn't mine. He stepped inside and pulled her close. She giggled, whispered something against his cheek, and they moved to the couch, my couch, still marked with the indent from where I used to sit every night after work, drinking a beer with aching hands and a full heart. She climbed into his lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like she hadn't kissed my forehead just a few days ago while handing me pain meds. I watched as he pulled the robe loose from her shoulder. She laughed again, low and breathy, and cupped his face with both hands. "I missed you," she said. "Only a couple days this time," he murmured back, lips brushing her collarbone. "He hasn't figured it out yet." She smirked. "He's got cameras, but I control the feeds. He only sees what I let him." A pause. "He still thinks I'm taking care of him." They both laughed. That was the moment the sound died in my chest. I stared at the screen, mouth open, frozen. The betrayal wasn't just the physical intimacy. It was her words. Her tone. The joy in her cruelty. I could almost feel the weight of her on my legs. The familiar texture of that robe under my fingers. The echo of her voice in my ear. But now, she was his. They poured wine. Played music, some slow acoustic track I didn't recognize. She curled up beside him, head resting on his shoulder, her hand tracing lazy circles on his thigh. That used to be our ritual. After the kids went to bed, she'd press play on our favorite playlist. We'd sink into each other, talk about dreams we'd never chase. The scent of vanilla from her lotion would fill the room, and I'd bury my face in her neck just to breathe her in. Now, she let him in instead. She kissed him again, longer this time. Her hand slid under his shirt. Their bodies moved closer, tangled, shifting in rhythm. The scene blurred slightly as they lay back into the couch cushions. I closed the laptop. Not because I couldn't watch. But because I had seen enough. The truth was no longer a suspicion, or a shadow in the hallway. It was full color, surround sound reality. I sat there in the dark, the faint buzz of the overhead bulb filling the silence. And I cried. Not loud. Not messy. Silent, trembling sobs. The kind that sit in your throat like a stone and refuse to move. I wasn't mourning her. I was mourning the man who used to believe her. After that night, something inside me stopped trying to survive for her. I didn't ask for breakfast the next morning. I didn't speak when she came in with my meds. I didn't even flinch when she kissed my forehead and whispered, "You're doing so well lately." That kiss used to mean something. Now it felt like a death sentence. I stared at the wall. The same 4 cracks above the window frame. I'd counted them every day since she moved me into this room. But today, I didn't count. I just drifted. My body still ached from the accident. But the pain of watching her love someone else, of hearing her lie with such ease, was worse. A deeper, duller agony that no pill could dull. I thought about rolling myself into the hall. Screaming. Demanding the truth. Confronting her, confronting him. But what would it change? No one believed me. Not even my own sons. She'd already painted me as unstable. Unfit. A burden. Flashback, the first time Max took his first steps, he fell flat on his face. Megan had panicked. But I just laughed, scooped him up, kissed his scraped chin, and said, "That's how we learn." She called me her anchor. Said I kept her steady. She used to cry into my chest and whisper, "Don't ever leave me." Now she locked me in a room and kissed another man on my couch. I stopped eating. 3 days in a row, I left the trays untouched. Not to punish myself, but because I didn't want anything from her. Not even nourishment. Megan didn't ask why. She just started sending in the food with Max. The poor boy couldn't even look me in the eyes. "Dad," he whispered once, barely audible. "Mom says you're sick. That you forget things." I grabbed his hand, gently. "I'm not sick. I remember everything." He yanked away, scared. I didn't blame him. She was erasing me, not just as a husband, but as a father. And it was working. I hit my lowest point that night. Sat in the dark, journal open on my lap, pen in hand but no words coming. For the first time in my life, I felt truly invisible. But then I remembered something. The morning of the accident, Troy had called me to cover for him. He was supposed to be on that scaffold. Not me. I'd said yes without hesitation. "We've all got each other's backs," I told him. He owed me his life. Now he had mine. And that's when I decided, no one was coming to save me. Not the doctors. Not the kids. Not even God. It had to be me. I opened the laptop and began writing a letter, not to Megan, not to Troy. To the world. I titled it, "My Wife Thinks I'm Too Broken to Speak. So I'll let the truth speak for me." Then I dug through the footage. I clipped timestamps, labeled each clip with calm, precise notes. I took photos of my room, the locked door, the camera in the corner. I scanned my journal, every page. By morning, I had 14 files ready to go. One to a news station. One to Reddit. One to an attorney I'd found online through a disability rights group. One to the police department's abuse and exploitation tip line. I didn't know if they'd believe me. But I had nothing left to lose. She took everything, my dignity, my trust, my place in the family. But I still had the truth. And now, I was going to set it free. I didn't expect it to go viral. I thought maybe someone would skim it, maybe a few kind strangers would comment. But I never expected my story to take off like wildfire. It started on Reddit. Within hours, my post had thousands of upvotes. People were outraged, not just because of what Megan had done, but because of how invisible I had become. Dozens of users reached out offering help. A former nurse. A disability advocate. A retired detective. By the next day, 3 local news stations had picked it up. I watched, stunned, as they read my words out loud on air. My face wasn't shown, but the images were: my small room, the webcam footage, the hallway camera angle that caught her with Troy. Suddenly, the silence that had consumed me for months cracked wide open. Megan knew something was wrong before the doorbell even rang. That morning, she burst into my room, red-faced, holding her phone. "What the hell did you do?" I looked up slowly. Told the truth. She opened her mouth, but the knock at the door stopped her. Police. The look on her face shifted, rage to panic to performance. She wiped her eyes, straightened her robe, and walked calmly to the door like she was the victim. But they didn't buy it. They had already seen the footage. They had the letters, the journals, the medical records she'd forged to keep me confined. Her narrative unraveled in real time, right there on our front porch. An officer came into my room. His name was Martinez. He bent down, looked me in the eye, and said, "We're going to get you out of here, sir. You're not alone anymore." I wept. Quietly. Gratefully. They removed the lock from the outside of my door. Took down the camera. And then, for the first time in months, I rolled myself into my own hallway, free. Megan was charged with psychological abuse, manipulation of guardianship, and falsifying legal documents. When they found out Troy had been living in the house rent-free and collecting mail while I was locked in the back room, he was brought in for questioning too. Neighbors who used to wave at Megan across the street suddenly turned their backs. One woman brought over cookies and whispered through tears, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know." But the part that hit me hardest? The kids. Tyler came into my room that night, no camera, no tray, no orders. Just him. He stood there with red eyes and a shaking chin and said, "Dad. I didn't know. I swear." I opened my arms, and he ran into them. Max followed. My boys, finally mine again. It would take time. Therapy. Healing. Truth doesn't erase pain. But it opens the door to something better. I filed for full custody of Max. Tyler was old enough to choose, and he chose me. We moved in with my sister 2 weeks later. Her house isn't big, but it's filled with light. No locks. No lies. Just warmth. I still have bad days. Pain. Flashbacks. Quiet moments where I wonder how it all fell apart. But now, I write because I want to, not just to stay sane. I tell my story not to shame her, but to remind people that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it wheels itself down a hallway it wasn't supposed to survive. It's strange, what freedom sounds like after silence. The soft thump of my wheels over hardwood in my sister's hallway. The gentle laughter of my boys downstairs, playing cards on the carpet. The smell of lasagna from the kitchen. Real food. Real warmth. Real life. I used to think healing would come all at once. A moment. A sunrise. Something dramatic. But it doesn't. It's smaller than that. Slower. It's Tyler asking me to help with his science project. Max climbing into bed with me during a thunderstorm and whispering, "Don't worry, Dad, I'll keep you safe." It's learning to cook from my wheelchair, burning a few things, laughing about it anyway. It's brushing my teeth without a locked door behind me. And it's knowing I don't owe her forgiveness to move on. Megan's trial is still ahead. Her attorney called, asking if I'd consider a private resolution. I didn't answer. My silence was the answer. Let her explain to a judge why she told the world I was dangerous. Why she isolated me. Why she kissed a man in my kitchen while calling me broken. Let her feel what I felt, unseen, unheard, and undeniable. Some nights, I still scroll back through old photos. Birthdays. Vacations. Her in that green dress she wore the night we danced in our backyard under Christmas lights. There's still a flicker of pain. But I don't hate her. She made her choice. And I made mine. I chose to live. Flashback, on our 5th anniversary, she gave me a pocket watch. Said it belonged to her grandfather. Time is a gift, she whispered, placing it in my palm. Don't waste it. Funny. That watch stopped working the night of my accident. Cracked face, hands frozen at 3:42 p.m. I had kept it in the drawer of that room the whole time. One day, after we moved into my sister's house, I took it to a repair shop. They fixed it. It ticks now. Quiet, steady. Like me. The man I was, the husband, the builder, the father who once lifted beams twice his weight, he's still here. Just different. A little slower. A little wiser. A whole lot stronger. I write now. For others. For anyone trapped, doubting their own reality. I tell them this. You are not crazy. You are not invisible. You are not alone. And to the woman who tried to make me disappear. You didn't break me. You only showed me what I'm truly made of. Because I thought my body had broken. But it was your heart that was truly shattered. You chose betrayal. I chose myself.